World Environment Day is celebrated every 5th day of June every year. It is the United Nations principal vehicle for encouraging awareness and action for the protection of our environment. First held in 1974, it has been a flagship campaign for raising awareness on emerging environmental issues. World Environment Day is the UN's most important day for encouraging worldwide awareness and action for the protection of our environment. Each World Environment Day is organized around a theme that focuses attention on a particularly pressing environmental concern. The theme for 2018 is beating plastic pollution. All right, good morning there. Thank you very much for joining us. This is News Center, and my name is Betty Kialo. Very happy that you could join us this morning as we take a look at the top stories here in our country and beyond our borders. It is the 5th day of June 2018, and I'm trusting that you're having a fantastic morning. Of course, as you know the drill, for the next 2 hours, we'll be updating you on stories that are taking center stage right here in the country. We'll be having our reporters joining us from different parts of the country, including Kwale, where these celebrations to mark World Environmental Day are taking place. We'll be speaking to my colleague Rita Tinina shortly, and that's just one of the stories that we're focusing on. Other top stories that we can expect, of course, here on the show. The National Assembly will resume its sittings today after a one-month recess to a full intro, with the focus being the consideration of the 2018-2019 budget. Parliament resumes at a time when President Uhuru Kenyatta has intensified the war on graft, with the Parliament coming under sharp scrutiny over claims of poor oversight. All right, something else that we're focusing on is the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission that now has only 3 commissioners, with the vacant positions yet to be filled. Should we be worried? That's the question we're asking today, and we'll be having a conversation also to do with that here on the show. Apart from that, also Health Cabinet Secretary Cecily Kariuki is today presiding over the launch of the first ever Kenya population-based HIV impact assessment survey at the Safari Park Hotel here in Nairobi. Now, this survey will look at county-by-county status, and it will also be the first time that the country will look at sexually transmitted diseases and hepatitis B prevalence, as well as the nutrition status in children and pregnant mothers. We'll be covering that for you here on News Center. All right, so let's get it started. Remember that we are hoping to hear from you and interact with you on the coverage that we'll be having here on the show. Hashtag, of course, is KTN News Center, or you can choose to tweet me at Betty M. Kialo. Let's begin our coverage. And today, like I mentioned, is World Environment Day, which is celebrated every 5th day of June every year. It is the United Nations principle for encouraging awareness and action for the protection of our environment. First held in 1974, it has been a flagship campaign for raising awareness on emerging environmental issues. Kisumu's Michael Etienne has transformed the water hyacinth into fortunes. The 39-year-old founder of Takawiri Enterprises produces attractive paper products from waste paper and the water hyacinth, from notebooks, business cards, greeting cards, and gift bags. Well, Kevin Ogutu has that report to start our coverage.
Lake Victoria, Africa's largest freshwater lake and a source of livelihood to thousands that live around it. From transport services, fishing and agriculture, this shared resource is no doubt a strong economic pillar. Standing on the way of this great potential is the stubborn water hyacinth.
Hii hyacinth tangu ikuje, imetufukuza kwa beach yetu, tunahangaika huku nje.
But to Michael Otieno, this weed is just but a blessing in disguise, one that needs sustainable approach to remove it from the face of Lake Victoria. After dropping out of high school at Form 2, Michael received basic training in paper recycling at a training center in Kisumu and only worked long enough to get starting capital.
Through the savings I got from the for working for Mr. Mchilwa, I started buying the equipment. So I just bought a small trough and a mortar and pestle because I was just crushing it manually.
But it is not water hyacinth alone that he uses to make the paper. Waste paper is part of the ingredient. In this open yard, we find Mama Millicent Ogumbo, who has been in this business for 28 years.
Pata kwa ofisi, nazipata kwa factories, nazipata kwa ninjas. Sana sana ninjas ndio bosses zangu, wengine wamekaa pale chini, niko na watu wa kunisaidia kazi.
Back to Michael's workshop, he takes me through how the entire process is done.
First of all, you must go and get the raw material from the source. In this case, I'm getting it from Lake Victoria, the Kisumu side. Then you cut it into smaller pieces, then you decompose it. You tie it a week or two, because to make it lose the green pigment, yeah? Then after that, you mix it with the waste paper in this machine. It's called pulping machine. Then you add water at least to get the pulp. So it's like a blender. It just blends the hyacinth plus the waste paper. Then you get the pulp. So after getting the pulp, then you suspend it in a trough, half filled with water. Yeah, then using a wooden frame with a net attached to it, you just lift it, or rather you sieve it. So the wet paper forms on the screen, yeah? Then after that, you just put it to dry under the sun.
The dry paper is then passed through the calendaring machine, which makes it smoother and printable. The result is a beautiful display of the products. He gets orders from individuals and corporates seeking these products, but he thinks more investments are needed here.
For this project to have an impact, especially on managing the hyacinth in the lake and also waste paper, you need like 20 million Kenya shillings to set up a fully fledged small industry to at least handle that and also to create jobs here.
This particular weed has got its own fair share of benefits. For example, it is being used in making fertilizers and also in biogas production. So such initiatives like that of Michael of converting this particular weed into a paper is welcome, particularly in this age when there is a ban on plastic usage in Kenya. Kevin Ogutu for KTN News in Kisumu.
Well, that's quite nice. Let's continue with our coverage. And the government's ban on plastic bags last year may be a curse for plastic bag manufacturers, but it is certainly a blessing for makers of alternative bags. One community-based organization in Nairobi's Kawangware estate is cashing in on the opportunity to serve a growing demand for alternative bag orders. Caroline B. visited the former street children who have been making the bags for close to a decade. Here is that report that she filed a while back. Take a look.
Kawangware Vision Center. Youth aged between 17 and 25 years are hard at work to meet their deadline. One of their biggest clients has requested for more than 500 carrier bags. The target is to find a replacement for plastic bags. The youth are either former street children or come from humble backgrounds, and the plastic ban couldn't have come at a more opportune time.
Kazi imeongezeka zaidi sana na tuko katika harakati za kujipanga upya. Maana kama walipokuwa wakisema hatuko nafikiria kwamba serikali ilikuwa serious. Tunaona tu kama ni mzaha. Maana si mara ya kwanza karatasi ya plastic kubaniwa hapa Kenya. Ni mara mingi nimeshaambiwa, so hatukuchukua serious hata sisi. Sasa imetupata na tunajaribu kujiandaa, tumeongeza vijana na tuko very sure in the next 2 weeks zile order tuko nazo zimekuwa mingi sana.
The raw materials are waste products purchased from various factories. They are cut into required sizes, folded, then the logo is printed before being left to dry, then glued. The bag handles are made out of various material, but the most preferred are these plated from dried banana leaves woven by women's special groups in Kawangware.
Sasa tunapoongea sasa tuko na order ya karibu mwezi mzima ambapo schedule yetu imejaa. Na hii sasa vile tutafanya, tumetuma vijana wenyewe tu wanajua, wale vijana ambao wanahitaji, they are needy, tuweze kuja tuwasomeshe namna ya kutengeneza mifuko na tuingize katika workshop, na ikiwezekana hii workshop yetu tuipanue ili tuweze kumudu wa vijana wote.
Business is good. On a good month, they generate up to 250,000 shillings in profit, making up to 1,000 bags daily, depending on demand. A number of youngsters generate their income from this job, but majority have now resumed school since they reopened.
Nilifika klasi ya 7 wakati hiyo. Sasa saa hii tuko tu na masa na watu wengine, na pia hii job ninafanyanga na inua masa yangu pia na watu wetu wengine pia.
Yenye nafanya hapa, pesa zenye wananilipa wanga inanisaidia kwa maisha yangu na familia yangu. Si huwa nalipia mtoto school fees, niko na mtoto ako shule. Napata shilingi 300 na pamoja na lunch wananipea 50. Alafu natengenezanga bags, naweza tengeneza kama bags 70 hivi kwa siku.
The bags sell for 20 to 75 shillings each, but the prices could soon rise given the high demand. More than 1,000 businesses are in constant touch with this community-based organization, ranging from high-end hotels, tourist and corporate clients.
Zinategemea kama zina mambo ya kuprint, tunaweza tengeneza bags 2,000, 3,000 kwa siku moja. Kutoka asubuhi mpaka 5. Maana ni kazi tumezoea, ni uzoefu. Ni kama tumezoea kufanya. Kama ziko na hii mambo ya kuweka logo kama ni moja peke yake, tutafanya bags kama 1,000, 1,500 per day. Kama zina 2 logos, kwa sababu gonna 2 logos pia ni kazi mingi. Tutafanya kuanzia 700 hapo hivi.
Following the ban, plants are in high speed to accommodate varied customers.
Vile hii karatasi vile serikali imeban karatasi, kitu kwa manufaa ya kwanza tuseme hata ni kazi. Maana environment ni yetu sisi wote. Manufaa ya kwanza ni hiyo environment, na sisi wenyewe tumekuwa tu wasafi, tunaweza kumudu environment yetu. Namba ya pili, kama unavyoona sasa hapa lazima tuongeze vijana wafanye kazi. Wale vijana ambao wako nje, they'll be absorbed. We are going to absorb like 15 more in this project. We are arranging how we are going to buy some desks, chairs and everything, because we are not serious. We thought it was, tunafikia ni mchezo tu.
Najua sasa, najua hii works sasa, najua tu vizuri sana. Naweza penda hata mimi nikiwa tu na yangu kama hii pia nifunze wengine na tuendelee kimaisha.
The ban on plastic bags has given them a small but significant victory, and their plan for the next 2 to 3 weeks is to expand to be able to cater for much smaller business and vendors. Caroline B, KTN News.
All right, remember that today we are celebrating or marking World Environmental Day, and the theme is beating plastic pollution, something that that story really is highlighting. We'll be getting more insights from our Rita Nina, who will be joining us from Kwale, where that is being marked, that event is being marked. But before we get to that, another angle to do with the environment, and timber merchants from Mount Kenya have challenged a decision by the government to ban timber harvesting in public and community forests. In a suit filed by the High Court in Nyeri, the traders state that forest products worth millions were going to waste as a result of a logging ban declared by the government on the 27th of February. The traders say they bought the trees from in-government forests but have been denied access by the respondents. Kenya Forest Service and the chief conservator have, however, raised a preliminary objection, arguing that the court lacks jurisdiction on the matter. Raquel Muigai is currently in Nyeri and now joins us with an update. Raquel, talk to us more about this suit that has been filed. Was the situation aggravated by that extension of that ban on logging?
Good morning to you, Betty. Here in Nyeri County, that particular case that has been filed states looking for the logging or the timber people to be allowed to harvest the timber that they had earlier asked on for during that particular time that they had earlier harvested in the forest. But remember that there has been a lot of since that particular ban, they had not been allowed within the particular forest, given stating that some of the situations that it was not conducive for them to go back within the forest. So it has been a very trying moment for this particular timber or sales sawmillers who say that they had invested a lot of millions within this particular forest, some of them up to almost 5 million. And you can imagine that they since that particular ban on the 27th of February, they were not allowed to go inside the forest and get their timber, even after having paid for these tenders. However, according to some of the reports that, the report that was earlier issued on earlier, is that the Kenya Forest Service might have had a hand in trying, in not fulfilling their mandate, in not being able to stand up and fight and look after all this particular milling that was done within this forest. So it has been a hard time, and we're just going to wait and see exactly what will turn out. But at this particular point, the sawmillers and the timber business pyramid is also, those within the timber business pyramid are feeling that particular pinch. Remember that this particular timber is not only being used by sawmillers, but also the carpenters who get to manufacture, who get to create items from this particular wood. We also do have people who depend on this particular timber, trying to look out for firewood, trying to probably for charcoal. So it has been a tough and trying moment for all of these people, given that since that particular ban and now the extension of this particular moratorium for the next 6 months, it has been very tough, and it will continue being very tough for them. But right now I'm joined by Agnes Ndegwa, who is among one of the many people within that particular timber business pyramid and owns this timber yard here, who's just going to speak to us on how exactly business has been, what has been the challenge, and what is it that now they do expect now that there is a 6-month extension. Thank you so much for joining us here on KTN. Please, I'll just like to get your reaction on this particular extension that has been given, 6-month extension. You guys had a lot of hopes on the ministry trying to do something else, but not an extension. What is your reaction on this?
For now, we have been trying to find timber from those who had remained some, and it has been very tough for us, because even them, they have actually gotten done with their remaining timber. The forest.
So, wacha tuanze pale kwa kazi vile imekuwa hapa. Kazi imekuwaje baada ya hii miezi 3 ambayo mmekuja mkaambiwa hakuna kupata mbao tena, na mtu kama wewe hapa mnatengeneza viti, mnakuja mnatengeneza vitu kama hivi. Labda hali imekuwaje, hali ya kazi imekuwaje?
Imekuwa chini sana. Mafundi wetu walishaenda nyumbani, wale wamebaki ni vile tu hatuwezi waambia waende nyumbani. Lakini si ati ni vile wako na kazi mingi wanafanya hapa. Tunawapea tu kazi kidogo kidogo, ni kuvumiliana tu, because we can't do anything else apart from waiting until the 6 months ban is over, or the reaction of the government on how they can help us to come back to line with the business. Yeah.
And what about zile prices viti zenyu, na pia mmekuwa mkihandle aje customer orders hapa?
It has been, we have hiked our prices, and because there is no way that we are buying the timber that we used to buy before at double prices, and we can't double our furniture. So the amount that we are getting very little profits from our furnitures, and unlike before, it's no longer profitable doing this business. Yeah.
Now, the government banned logging on natural forests, but allowed for those who had their own private plantations. So is there any difference within the trees that come from private plantations and those that come from the natural forest? Does it interfere with how you do your job here?
Yeah, there is a big difference, because there before, those trees from the local market, we used to use them for the things that are not really to be displayed, because they usually don't flower, and they usually fold themselves as they dry up. Unlike from the forest, they usually have matured enough to be used for making furniture. Yeah.
And probably now, what is it that you will like to be done, given that it's a 6-month extension, and as you say, the private plantation trees do not compare with the natural forest? What do you think should have been probably the right action to be taken?
Okay, what I think right now is that they should reconsider, because those people were not stealing the trees from the forest. They had the licenses. Also, as we are millers, we had the letters from the government. And so them taking away our, they're taking away our rights because we have trees in the forest, which will be still continuing our work. So I think what they should have done, they should have said those who still have trees from the forest, they get done with the logging, and so we can still continue the work as they take the next move to what they see is the right decision to make as a government. Yeah.
Thank you so much. As Agnes says, Betty, job has been difficult. Work here has been difficult given the kind of situation that has been there in the timber business. But even as we get to celebrate World Environment Day and we get to focus on plastic pollution and also the strides that have been made, we cannot despise the fact and the strides that have been made within the environment, trying to conserve the environment, trying to reach out to as many people to see the need of why we require our forest. But from what we've heard from Agnes is that there should have been a consideration of what exactly was the better option, because a lot of people get to depend on this whole timber business, this whole timber business sector, and therefore it is a very difficult moment for them. Even as we get to celebrate World Environment Day, to them this will just be a normal day like the rest. Betty.
All right, Raquel Mugai there reporting from Nyeri, just talking about the timber merchants' wars and that suit that they have filed in court. Now, I want to switch gears and turn our focus to the National Assembly, which resumes its sittings today after a month-long recess. Top on its in-tray is the conclusion of the budget-making process for the coming financial year. And as our political affairs reporter Murimi Mwangi now tells us, the National Assembly resumes at a time when the country has been locked in a series of corruption scandals, put into question the seriousness of Parliament in its watchdog role.
With only 26 days to the end of the current financial year, the National Assembly resumes its sittings from a month-long recess, top on the in-tray being the 2018-2019 financial year's budget.
We expect the Chair of Budget and Appropriation Committee and all the committees of the House to have concluded their interrogation of the budget, and the Chair to table the budget estimates report of 2018-2019 latest Wednesday morning.
A critical stage which National Assembly Majority Leader Eden Duale says will allow legislators to debate the report for a week, to pave way for Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich, who has to highlight his revenue-raising measures for the 2.5 trillion budget on the same day as his counterparts from the East African Community member states.
We have a tentative date for the whole of East African Community that the budget of all the East African communities will be read on the 14th of June 2018.
In line with what is happening in the country at the moment, we have reduced drastically the budgetary allocation to NYS. And I think this is because NYS is considered to be facing what it is facing because we are putting huge allocations to that department without clear processes and procedures.
But also expected to dominate National Assembly sessions is the renewed war on graft, championed by President Uhuru Kenyatta, who recently struck a cooperation deal with opposition chief Raila Odinga, with Parliament's seriousness in its watchdog role, recently coming under scrutiny from none other than National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi.
Tomorrow, after the opening of Parliament, I will be seeking a leave of the House to discuss corruption as a matter of public interest. It will only be fair that we bring it to the floor of the House.
I remember we have issues in Kenya Power. There are also issues in Kenya Pipeline and other parastatals. So we expect National Irrigation Board. There are issues.
If all of us together live by that spirit, and we are honest, and we are ready to fight corruption, then I think never before in the history of our country was this kind of unity in the war against corruption achieved.
Now, with the fresh vetting of senior government officials over graft expected to be completed in under 3 weeks, the coming financial year's budget no doubt tops Parliament agenda as the National Assembly resumes. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Parliament.
All right, so I now want to bring in my colleague Patrick Amimo, who's joining us from our City Centre studio. And he is, of course, today is focusing on Bunge, of course, curtain raiser as it opens today. Patrick, good morning. So, of course, we're looking at a situation where the main focus of the National Assembly right now is finalizing on the budget-making process. So where are we at as we speak with that?
Thank you, Betty. As Parliament resumes, the budget-making process will be top priority, especially when we expect the Budget Appropriations Committee to table its report today, this afternoon, once members are convened. For the last 2 weeks, what has been happening is that various committees have been going through various reports and budget proposals from the ministries, departments and agencies with regard to the money they intend to use in the coming financial year 2018-2019, which starts 1st June, to see how they can ensure that the money makes value for the Kenyans and also meets the various needs, both development and recurrent expenditure. So for the 2 weeks, the committees have been meeting, the Budget and Appropriations Committee, presenting their reports on whether they can add on some areas and or deduct in certain areas, and so as to ensure that everything runs in a seamless manner. So this afternoon, the Budget and Appropriations Committee, its chairperson, Kimani Ichung'wah, is expected to table that report so as for members to be able to start digesting it ahead of the budget day on June 14th, where we expect the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury, Henry Rotich, will be coming to the House and laying that report for members, as it were, to seek approval of Parliament before then the other necessary laws like the appropriation bill and the consolidation bill can go on board, because it's only these two bills that will allow the government to start appropriating that money and or putting it to proper use in the coming financial year. So that is what will happen. After that, we also expect this House will also be looking at the State of the Nation address. Remember, the President, when he made this speech during the State of the Nation address, that's when the House went on a long recess of 30 days, and members did not have opportunity to look at the President's speech, because when the President makes that address to the nation, that statement, he makes it without any interference and or contribution from members of the House. So they'll now have the opportunity to also interrogate the State of the Nation address from the President, which touched on various matters. So that members, as they look at the budget proposals, they'll also be looking at the State of the Nation address, especially some of the issues that the President raised. He has the Big Four agenda, matters touching on universal health care, making sure that there is affordable housing, ensuring there's food security, and also manufacturing sector. So these are things that will be looked at vis-a-vis the budget process. We also have the county pension scheme, which will also be of great interest, because members of the County Assembly are also eager to see, once their term in office comes to an end, how their welfare will be looked after. So this is how the situation will be in the House this afternoon and the next 2 weeks. But this does not mean that in our situation, it's a bicameral parliament. The Senate has been having its sessions. Senators were not on a break. They continued transacting their business, and they had an opportunity to look at the State of the Nation address. They are also looking at they also did look at various bills. But then it's the National Assembly that is mandated that authority to make the budget. So that's why it's like all focus will now be on the National Assembly as the budget is brought to the floor of the House. Last year, we were working at a budget of 2.6 trillion, which had a budget deficit, a whole of about 900 billion shillings, which the National Treasury was trying to see how it can fill that gap. And that's why it will be very, very critical to see the taxation measures that will be put in place. We've seen IMF come on board and prevail upon the national government to bring on board punitive taxation measures, where we have the capping on the interest rates. They want, the IMF was pressurizing the government to do away with, to remove the cappings on the interest rates, claiming that it was hurting the banks and the financial sector. So we'll see whether the government will be able to play along the IMF tough conditions, and or it will find a middle ground over that particular matter, because it is a very, very contentious and emotional matter. We've also seen other taxation measures that were wanted to be brought on board. Is taxation on basic food, basic commodities like even juice, milk, water. These are things, even kerosene, introducing tax measures on kerosene, imposing like a 16% VAT on kerosene. Matters that, if they are implemented, will now make sure that the cost of living will go up. So those are the things that we'll be looking at, and probably as the effects take place starting July and or September. Betty?
All right, Patrick Amimo, thank you for that. The next time we'll be seeing Patrick, he's going to be joining us from Parliament, who is going to, of course, also just sample the views of legislators there with regard to the issues that they are facing and they will be focusing on going forward. We now want to take a short commercial break here on News Center. Thank you so much for staying with us. Remember that today is World Environment Day, and shortly when we come back, we'll be having our team on the ground from Kwale County, where this day is being marked, and we'll be speaking to them really. All right, let's take a short commercial break. Do not go away. We'll be right back.